You just had a long day, then you ran after work. What are you going to cook that's going to have a lot of carbohydrates? Simple. You're going to go by your local grocery store, or even better, your local bakery, and pick up a hearty loaf of fresh bread. This particular bread is Whole Foods Seduction bread. It's got a lot of seeds in it. It's got a mixture of white and wheat flour. And we're going to use some spring onions, which you don't have to have. Some baby kale. Regular kale will work fine as well. You could also use Swiss chard. You could use really any dark leafy green. You could use a mixture of dark leafy greens, like one of the power blends that they sell in similar boxes or bags to this. You're going to need some grated Parmesan, and then a lot of garlic, like a full head of garlic. You can buy peeled garlic if you want, or you can purchase garlic in clove form like this. This is a little bit less expensive. Peeled garlic will save you a lot of time, especially if you're going to be cooking right after work and you're tired, you're needing to get it done quickly. You can buy something like this, and if you don't have spring onions, well, of course you can simply buy shallots, or maybe a half of a sweet onion will work well too. Also, this bread here, it's just going to take maybe a minute or two in your oven. Okay, take your spring onion, the last fibrous, fresher green part, the part that extends out of the ground. You want to remove that. It's just a little too fibrous to eat. How much you keep is up to you. Myself, I'm going to go for a section right about here. That's about right for me, and remove that off. The only other part you don't want is the end here. Simple slicer is going to remove the end for you, and you have that off as well. Then you're going to slice this. How thick is up to you. I like my onions a little thicker. They're going to add some texture, and in addition, my wife doesn't like onions, or at least to see them, so she can pick them out if that's the case. Now, you can cut it at a bias, which is going to be at a diagonal, or you can cut it straight on. Here we're going to go straight on. We're just going to do maybe a ½ centimeter cuts. And you're going to have something like that. So finish up both onions like that. Your garlic, relatively simple. You're going to take your garlic. You're just going to remove the end portion, which is a little not very edible bit. You're going to move it like that. And this little piece right here, you're going to remove and discard. Then you can slice the garlic. Slice it pretty thin. Something like that. And as you can see, how thin am I talking about? We're talking about a slice like that. Okay, so I have a really deep pan. This particular pan is a Le Creuset Dutch oven, sometimes called a French oven. I think it's 5.5 quarts. It's great because you could cook almost anything in this. It's enameled cast iron. It's just really the best, most versatile pan you can get. You can even do a soup in here because it's very deep. The advantage of the depth is that you can stir fry or saute something and it's not going to splatter everywhere. You can see I chopped everything up. That looks like a ton of garlic and a ton of onions. In fact, you're going to see very quickly that it's not, because this amount of greens, which also looks like a lot, is going to become nothing in just a few minutes. The olive oil that I use a California olive oil. It's unfiltered. It's from Whole Foods. It'll cost you around $12 with this big bottle, which is very, very reasonable. I also use some olive oil that's a more specific olive, that's a little bit fruitier, that has a stronger flavor, that's from Spain. If you buy the Whole Foods olive oil, it's more likely that you're getting what you're paying for. It's more likely to be certified, etc. If you Google olive oil fraud or olive oil scam, you'll find out very quickly that a lot of olive oil is not actually olive oil. So this is highly recommended, and it's very inexpensive. And if you also wanted to save money on this, as I said again, you don't have to purchase washed, pre-washed baby kale. You can buy regular unwashed kale, adult kale, and it will be quite a bit less expensive. And the olive oil is inexpensive. The only other thing I'm going to add, and this is up to you, if you don't like spicy, then don't add any. If you can handle a little bit of heat, just a touch, like my wife, then use a Sandia chili. If you want something quite a bit spicier, you're going to use jalapeno chili flake. I myself really prefer bird's eye, which is a lot spicier. I'm going to add this at the end because the greens go so well with a little bit of acid from the lemon, a little bit of heat from the chilies, and then finally a dusting of Parmesan, and then some Hearty Crusty Bread. You're going to have a ton of carbohydrates, a ton of nutrients. It's just going to be a great, simple meal that's super easy to cook. Now, I've started it on low heat. That's a 2 on my oven. I have a cheap oven that comes with my New York City apartment for free. If you have a better oven, you might want to start lower. The more you get used to doing this, the higher you'll be able to cook it. I haven't even started yet. It's on very low, so go ahead and start there. The higher you cook it, the more you have to stir it, and the better chance of burning it you have. If you don't have a lot of experience cooking garlic and onions or kale or sauteing anything, start low and then turn it up higher. Get practice before you burn your onions and garlic. If it's your very first time, don't turn it more than just low or 1 or 2, because you're going to see it's going to start bubbling and crisping up quite quickly. Before you know, your onions and garlic are going to be translucent, and you do not want your garlic to start turning brown. That means you're burning it. It will be bitter. Do not let your garlic turn brown. Things are cooking. I'm watching. I'm stirring. If you have an aluminum pan and you're not cooking in steel, please make sure you move it all the time because it will scorch. While I'm watching and stirring, I have my salt and pepper out. Your greens are going to need some salt and a touch of pepper. I've already put my chili in there. As you can see, the little red flakes. I sliced my lemon. For me, about a half a lemon is a good amount. For you, you may want less. You may want more. I'd start with a half if I were you. I already put my bread into the oven. I haven't even started cooking it yet, though. But I will, in just a few minutes, turn it up to about 400. And I'm going to leave it in there for 1 to 2 minutes. I'm going to be pretty comfortable with touching it to see if the outside is firm. I'm going to make sure I don't get any black spots on the bread. I don't want it to burn. We're still cooking. Now it's a little bit heavier bubble. Okay, I turned the heat off. I allowed the oil to stop bubbling. The reason why is if you are not familiar with sauteing, then this next part is going to be tricky because I'm going to attempt to get those 3 boxes of greens. I decided I would even add some super greens to the mix, plus these 2 boxes into here. Now, if your if your stove is going really hard and your oil's crackling really hard and you're trying to get all of those in there, what can happen is you will forget to stir the bottom because everything's going to accumulate on the top and you're going to burn your greens. So we're going to attempt to put all the greens in while the oil is cool and not burn anything. Okay, so I have emptied all of my greens in there. The stove is not on. Now I'm going to get my lemon. I'm going to squeeze my lemon in. I'm going to get a touch more olive oil. I'm going to add my olive oil to the top. Then I'm going to get some salt. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And then I'm going to really start stirring like crazy as I turn the heat on. Your greens are going to need a good pinch of salt. This particular salt is really fine, so it may have looked like I put a lot on. It's actually probably going to need even more salt than that. The Parmesan will add some saltiness as well, so it's up to you to really gauge how much salt you need. Remember, if you have a long run, you need more salt. Salt is your friend for long runs. You're going to begin to notice, as you begin cooking more, how much salt you're actually going to need. We've reduced by about half already. It's going to continue reducing. Over the next minute or two, you're going to hear more and more popping. Keep stirring. Let it go. Let it keep getting smaller and smaller. Now there are a few different ways to plate this. Here is way number one, like a crostini. Slice your bread, put your greens on top, add a sprinkling of cheese. Fantastic and delicious. Now I'll consume about 2 bowls like this. This is how I prefer to eat it. For me, it's going to bring a lot of nutrients with the kale. And again, I threw in some chard and some tatsoi in there as well. We have some really hearty bread in there, which are going to be our carbohydrates. Just a really fantastic hearty meal. Super easy.